right, we are back. So today we are going to dive into Miles Davis's catalog as released on Mobile Fidelity. So there are, in our research, we counted 18 titles that we're going to get into. Before we do that, remember to like and subscribe, leave comments, let us know what you think about Miles Davis's reissues on MoFi, which ones you have, which ones you recommend, or if you don't recommend them. So with that, I think we're going to get into it. And before we jump into the titles themselves, I think we're going to speak about Miles on MoFi in general. Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. There's a couple interesting things about it. The first, I think, is that, part of MoFi Gate, which we didn't make a bunch of videos about, right? We found out that lots of the titles MoFi has done are digital, and all the Miles ones are. They're all DSD, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they all, all the ones I have at least sound completely amazing. People like Joe Harley say they sound better than the originals that he has in his collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of the first point, and to me, and the second point, we can go back to the second point is these things are available now. I mean, maybe not all right now, but they've been re-releasing them consistently over the last few months. They're sticking around. It's not like they're gone in 5 seconds like they used to be.
No.
I don't know if that's a result of the market softening a little bit, or the MoFi Gate turning people off to them buying the titles, or pressing capacity opening up. I don't know, but I think those kind of 2 points are interesting.
Yeah, very good point, Chris. I think it's like a conjunction, a combination of everything. First, the FOMO is kind of decreasing, going down. They're repressing. The more they repress, more people already have it, so new people are buying, and maybe not at that such speed,
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I find interesting about those titles is that even before the whole MoFi Gate or whatever you want to call, they're already unanimously loved by people, right? They sound amazing. They're great. That's why they aftermarket pricing was so high. And then after everything was revealed, people still praise them. And I think that means something. First, the work was really good. Second, the music's outstanding. It speaks for itself. And third, guys, if digital is well done, who cares? Right? I think that's one of the very important points to be remembered there as well.
All right. So what we'll do is, because there's 18 of them, and we are going to touch on each of those, we'll set it up with when it was recorded, when it was released, the lineup, and then we'll go through when MoFi reissued it. And based on our research, the earliest LP reissue that we could find. So we'll just jump into it now. So the first in chronological order of Columbia release day is round about midnight. So this is Miles coming from Prestige, and he's with his his first quintet crew on Columbia. So this was recorded in 1955 and 1966, a few different session dates, and it was released on March 4, 1957. And as mentioned, it's his old crew, which includes Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. So this was released on Mobile Fidelity. The earliest LP or double 45, whichever it was, is 2013.
And you have that one, Felipe?
Yes, it's right here, Chris. Round about midnight. I do not have the speaker's corner. That's my only version, and it's one of the best mono records I have. Not only Mobile Fidelity in general. It sounds very sweet, warm, very defined. All the horns are very clear. The bass is very filling, right? And let's remember those first records on Columbia that we're going to talk about. Miles was still under contract with Prestige, but when he was approached, he got a really hefty deal with Columbia, and it was the biggest studio, the best. So he was already recording with Columbia, but still it was on contract with Prestige. So that's the recordings here. They were way earlier than the actual release of them.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the recording sessions were from 1955 and 1956 because I think he was still doing
exactly. When he was kind of pressed to do Porgy and Bess and kind of blue, he had to, let's just speed it up. Let's cut those 4 records that he cut that we know so well.
Yep.
And then after he signed a contract, Prestige was done. Then those records were actually released.
So is that a 33? The MoFi release of that one?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a 33 single record.
Now I have the speaker's corner, and it's okay.
I mean, yeah, I have the speaker's corner. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
This one, you know. So that's another pressing that's available, but I would
Yeah.
I want to replace this obviously with the MoFi whenever it gets repressed.
I think the MoFi is one of the best on the batch there for sure.
Now, this one is analog, but it's probably a tape copy that they had or whatever.
Yeah, which tape it is. Yes,
But yeah, I mean, I love Roundabout Midnight. It's one of my favorite Miles records. I didn't realize it was it was recorded so early. But that makes sense. So this is actually the first great quintet then still, right?
This is first great quintet, and they're doing standards, mostly jazz standards. So obviously Round Midnight is a Monk song. They do some Charlie Parker, Cole Porter, Ted Dameron, Stan Getz. No original compositions here.
And that's recorded at 30th Street as well?
That's a good question. This is recorded Columbia 30th Street.
And again, these recordings are from his earlier collaborators. He was a big fan of Charlie Parker,
Yep.
So that makes sense that he chose. And let's remember, 55 was the year Miles was like reinventing himself. He was out of drug addiction, the heavy addiction that he went to the late 40s to like 53, 54. So he was really on a different path at this point.
Yeah. Hey, before we move on, since this is, I think, maybe his first release on Columbia. All right, so let's move on to our next release. This is going to be Milestones. So this, again, is going to feature most first quintet, and then with the addition of Cannonball Adderley. This is recorded in February and March 1958, and then released that September. And I'm just double checking the lineup, and yes, that is the case. So it's a sextet with Cannonball and the first quintet.
Yes, I mean I love this one. Miles, the title track's awesome. It's
yeah.
And then the version of Straight No Chaser on this is really good too.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. But this one sounds amazing. It's another 33.
Yeah. The title track Milestones was his actual first modal composition, considered to be.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, right.
So this was in 58. This was recorded in 58 and released in 58.
So this was recorded early 58 and then released in September.
Interesting. So I mean, this must have been after he had gotten done with Prestige. Then it had to have been. I mean, if it was released that fast, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And chronologically, in terms of release date, let me double check the recording. The title before this is his 10-inch that he recorded in Paris, and it's the Lift to the Scaffold, I think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
So that came, and then he released Milestones, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, soon after he came back for sure.
So Felipe, do you have this one?
Yeah, it's right here. It sounds good. It's a really good historical piece, but out of the whole batch, it's not the best sounding one, in my opinion.
So I have a first Canadian pressing, which the stampers are identical to the US pressing. And I thought that actually sounded better than the MoFi.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that one wins out. Yeah.
So you have this one too, Mike? You have Milestones?
I have Milestones, and then
Okay, cool.
All right. So the next one here is Porgy and Bess. So this is going to be the first one that MoFi put out chronologically. That is his collaboration with Gil Evans. Okay. Yeah. So now this is kind of a whole different type of recording session. Recorded in July and August over 4 different sessions in 1958, released March 1959.
Yeah.
Okay. And the musicians there's a lot. So you have Miles Davis, Ernie Royal, Bernie Glow, Johnny Coles, and Louis Mercy on trumpet. We have a 4-member trombone section, Julius Watkins on French horn, Bill Barber tuba. We have a lot of people. There's flautists.
Yeah.
There's Cannonball Adderley's on this, Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones, Jimmy Cobb, and then Gil Evans is the arranger and conductor. And obviously they're doing songs from Porgy and Bess.
It sounds good. It's really good sounding, and it's a milestone recording too. It's one of Miles, I think, mostly known records, and one of the ones that probably attracted him to go back to Colombia, actually. He was a really good friend and fan of Gil Evans. He really wanted to work. He liked working with Gil Evans, not only because of his talent, but according to Miles, he felt like Bill Evans was like not an American white, but being a Canadian, he would understand and treat him better in a sense. You know how Miles was sensitive about it,
Mhm.
and they got along really well. They have a really like way of understanding each other and working along. I think so. Yeah. After Birth of the Cool, that was when they met them again, and then
Okay,
they worked on sketches, and then they worked on, of course, Quiet Nights.
right.
Yeah.
So Porgy and Bess, man, I think I like it better than Sketches. Honestly, just musically, I think it's my
Yes.
favorite. I think it's my
Mhm.
favorite one that they did together of
Yeah.
this series. Of Columbia series. Um,
Hmm.
this one's a double 45, which is interesting. It came out in 20. MoFi released it in 2020, so that's like
Yeah.
I think it looks like that's the last one that MoFi released
Oh yeah,
was Porgy and Bess in 2020.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's interesting.
That
I
is
remember it came out. It sold out so fast, like
Oh yeah,
minutes.
yeah, and
I
it was
couldn't.
very.
I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it.
Oh no, then they re-released it like 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, it came back. Yeah, I remember trying to get it one. It slept. It slipped out of my cart. I was in the cart and I lost it.
Well, 2020. Well, I mean, that's right in the pandemic. That would have been
Yeah.
everything was selling out instantly.
Yep.
Then
Yeah. Was right about that. I think Miles came about the same time, a couple weeks later, and that I could catch.
well. One, I'm just sorry. I'm looking at dates here. One thing that's kind of interesting is if you look at Gil Evans's discography, what he was doing just months before recording this with Miles is he was recording with Cannonball Adderley, the new what is it? It's Old Bottle New Wine.
Mm,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, New Bottle Old Wine on Pacific Jazz. So just a few months before he's recording with Cannonball, Cannonball comes to this session. He's on the session
mhm.
with
Yeah.
Miles. And what's interesting is Cannonball is the lead on those Pacific Jazz sessions with Gills, and now Miles is the front man. So kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
I think that record's good, but I think Porgy and Bess is way better.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do like
Yeah.
that
I do too.
New Bottle Old Wine. I do like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think that is like recorded interestingly. Like the it's like I don't know. It sounds very good.
Yeah,
So
Hmm.
for sure.
okay, moving on. So this now is what our
The one that no one has.
Yeah.
okay. So the one that no one has. Yeah, this is Kind of Blue. Yeah, Kind of Blue. So
Mhm.
August 1959, Miles and Columbia release Kind of Blue, which turns out to be one of the best-selling jazz recordings of all time. The
Mhm.
MoFi treatment, they gave it kind of a special package where it is a double 45 and it came in a box,
Hmm.
which
Mhm.
is different than the rest of the releases.
Yes.
I don't have this copy. I think all of us have one version or another of the UHQR at this point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Mhm.
but the MoFi preceded that, and a lot of people do have it. So
Mhm.
any thoughts on this release?
Um, I mean, I can judge on quality, of course. It's just what I heard, so I don't know how precise it is. Some people don't like the mastering on the record. Say it sounds. I heard people say it sounds too bassful. Some people say it sounds too harsh on the top. I am not sure, so I am kind of skip on that. I think for about the same price, you can get a really good cut on the UHQR. I think the 45 is still available,
Yeah,
or get some early pressing. There's so many variations of this record.
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say that I've never heard it either, but it's kind of universally panned compared
Hmm.
to like the UHQR or just like an
Yeah,
OG.
yeah. I've heard that as well.
yeah.
And just to go over the personnel, we have Cannonball on alto, Coltrane on tenor, Bill Evans on piano, except for Freddie Freeloader, Wynton Kelly on Freddie Freeloader, Paul Chambers and Jimmy Cobb.
Hmm.
And
I
this is a record that's noted for being a huge hit and in the modal idiom.
I think Wynton Kelly is also on all blues, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my favorite Miles record still, though. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of MoFi or whatever else, I love Kind of Blue.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
Can we talk about how Bill Evans was playing with George Russell, who I think is one of the the innovator of modal jazz.
Yes. Yeah.
He and Bill brought that learning into this session, and I don't think he's really credited to any of the compositions. There's kind of a famous story here too.
Yes. Yeah. The whole credit on Bill. I think that really soured their relationship.
This is Blue and Green, right? Blue and Green is the track.
Blue and Green, especially, and a lot of people, like James Brown, recorded Blue and Green. you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of the main tracks in the album, if not the best. Maybe, you know. And yeah, there was a problem with credit there. So Miles brought Bill into the session because he heard Bill playing. He said, "That's what I want." He heard his work with George Russell. But at the end, yes, it didn't work very well. You know, there are many versions to the story, but yeah, he didn't get credit for the lines that he put there.
Yeah.
In the song for his writing, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. The next one, which was put out by MoFi in 2013, which is fairly early, you know, other than one release from the 80s, which we'll get to. This is part of kind of the first batch from the first year they were reissuing them on LP. So 2013, this is Sketches of Spain. And the original session dates were November and March. Looks like 3 or 4 session dates, and then released. I'm sorry, of 1960, and released July 1960. So in the summer of 1960, you get Miles' Sketches of Spain. This is another Gil Evans collaboration, orchestration and arranging, conducting, etc.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he went to see a movie with his wife. At the end, he really got into one of the songs, which is Concerto de Aranjuez. I forgot the name of the author here, but a Spanish musician, very very famous indeed. And there was also an issue with the rights on the song authorship, but Miles gave him authorship, and so the guy stopped complaining basically. And they had to work with classical musicians. Miles was not didn't work very well. It was a really hard session to accomplish because he was into the modal, into a lot of improvisation, and the classical musicians working, they were very precise, but they didn't have the improvising kind of sense. So that was a big frustrating for him and for them as well. So he wanted improvisation, they wanted precision. So it was very hard to wrap up the record. It was a very tense session, and he swore he would never do that again.
But he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting story. The output though was amazing, right? Like Sketches is a great record.
Yeah.
It's a great one, yeah. And just to hit on some of the, you know, my personal favorites on here, we have Johnny Coles on trumpet, which there's a classic series, Johnny Coles, Little Johnny C, coming out on the classic Blue Note series. That's great. You have Elvin Jones on percussion, Jimmy Cobb on drums, Paul Chambers on bass. You have, who else? That's everyone I recognize here. But it's another, you know, large group. It looks like maybe like 25 people on it. So,
what do you think about the sound on this on the MoFi version, Felipe?
I like Chris. I have an OG stereo, 6i, the whole thing. It's a very silent record, so the quality of the vinyl here really makes the sounds stand out a little better. I think it's more clearer, sharper. The original sounds a little muffled, a little, you know, not too bright.
Right.
So I think this MoFi release really everything shines through. Everything. It sounds better than an original for sure.
Now they're going to do, or originally it was announced that it was going to be a 1-step.
It still is.
And
but
it says coming soon on the MoFi website.
But I think they pulled out the 45. They changed to 33, right?
I think I heard that they changed to 33 so they didn't have to break up a song.
Yeah.
Is that
Side
right?
A. It would, yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah. So
I
that's
don't
cool.
see any point in buying that, honestly. I mean, they just repressed the regular one.
Yeah.
It sounds
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, save your
Exactly.
money, buy it. When it comes back in stock again, buy it.
So for these one steps, you're essentially just buying. Is it ultra, like that ultra vinyl formulation, and then it's just a few stampers removed from
Yes,
a few
yes.
less stampers removed from the source. Is that the idea?
Yeah, the quality of the plastic plus less steps, theoretically, you're going to have a superior reproduction, more fidelity, uh, which I found to be true in most of the cases, but not necessarily the best sounding version because mastering digital or analog step or everything.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
All
know,
right.
personally. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be something insanely special. I didn't buy the Michael Jackson Thriller.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want to spend $100 on a record anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. They haven't put one out that I wanted so far.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next one's interesting. So after Sketches of Spain in like chronological Columbia release order is Someday My Prince Will Come. And this came out in 1983 on Mobile Fidelity. And I'm sorry, I do want to correct one thing. We are only touching on titles that MoFi released.
Yeah.
So there are titles that will fall in between some of these releases we're speaking about. We're just touching on the ones that MoFi released. So in order of those MoFi released chronologically by Columbia, we have Someday My Prince Will Come. This is 1983. And do any of us have this release?
I don't have this release, but let's talk about who's on it and talk about the record a little bit because I have a different release so we can talk about.
That's one of Hank Mobley.
Yeah. So I have this came out, I think, a year or two ago. It may be in stock right now. I think it was repressed recently. This is an AP
That's great.
version, and it's amazing. Like, I bet it sounds better than the 83 MoFi. I haven't heard of it. I would bet money that it does. I mean, it just sounds amazing. This has John Coltrane, Hank Mobley, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, and of course Miles. And I mean, the whole cool thing about her is that it's Someday My Prince Will Come. The sunlight, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. This was a transition period because people were stepping in and out of the quintet. He was kind of reshaping the quintet. Plus, he was always into picking the right people for every right track.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend getting the AP version over trying to hunt down 1980.
And the title song was his wife's request.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't know that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one, Mike?
Well, I'm looking up to see if Classic Records put it out because if that's the case, as we know, Chad bought Classic Records and their metalwork, which means that this would be probably from the original master tape, because Classic was able to get those before the rules changed where they wouldn't let them leave Columbia.
I mean, it's definitely from the master tape because it has the Chad's sticker there. So
okay,
the only one here.
I actually don't see it as a Classic Records release. So if
I have a
anybody,
360 and it already sounds phenomenal.
well, regardless, I have that one, Chris, and it's awesome. To me, it sounds like it's. I know there's like Hank Mobley on it. Who else? Let's see. So we have Hank
Coltrane,
Mobley,
Wynton Kelly.
Yeah, Mobley, Coltrane, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, Philly Joe Jones. So you have like original quintet on this. This is now we're getting into 61. You have some additional musicians like Mobley, and they're doing standards. I mean, this, like, I feel like this compared to steaming, working, relaxing, and cooking, like, I feel like this is like a more polished version of those records, and it's in Columbia and it sounds great. So I love this record. This is one of my favorite Miles records.
Yeah. I think the sessions might be even a little earlier. I mean, Coltrane left the quintet right after, not too long after Kind of Blue. He was already touring by himself.
Okay.
That's when he left, and Miles was in the search. I think.
Well, it's saying. I mean, this could be wrong, but Wikipedia has it as March 1961 pre-session dates.
Okay.
But again, it could be.
Well, he could come in for like one song or something. Who knows?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So let me see if it says. So Coltrane is on Someday My Prince Will Come and Tio. So he's on 2 tracks.
Yeah.
And then Mobley's is also on Someday My Prince Will Come, and he's not on Tio, and he's on everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So that was the earliest one, 1983. If anybody has that one, please leave a comment. Everyone be interested to kind of know how that sounds.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay. So the next one is another one of my favorites. This is E.S.P. This was released I have it here as 1965. Let me double check. So recorded January 65, released the summer of 65 in August, and MoFi put it out in 2016.
Yeah. That's the one.
Who's on it?
It's a first quintet already. Yeah, everybody.
Well,
the second quintet, sorry.
Second quintet, yeah. So Miles, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Tony Williams.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I think, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say one notable thing is that this was not recorded in New York. This was recorded at Columbia's Hollywood studio. So people have said that the recording is not up to par like the New York 30th Street Studios recordings. The music is still outstanding, and
I was gonna say I think the music is just outstanding in this record, which ESP actually means extra sensorial perception, right? The smiles on the backyard with his wife.
It's a great cover.
And actually, in the picture, you can tell there's some tension already between them. I like the inner, and I think the most brilliant part of this record, one of the most brilliant ones, the liner notes by Ralph Gleason. He makes a poem out of every Miles record title.
Oh, that's cool. I don't think I read that yet.
Which I think is good. Miles relaxing ahead, kind of blue track, jazz track, blue haze, quite nice catching in Spain, concert at Newport in Europe, Friday and Saturday nights at the Black Hawk. Someday my prince will come. So he just takes his record titles and makes a poem out of it. It's amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like E.S.P. It's not my favorite Miles. I mean, I don't know. There's something about it. Not that I don't like it. It's not in the top 5 or whatever for me.
I really like it. I have the Impex pressing of it, and I don't have anything to compare it against. It sounds very good. I really like it. Yeah, I think it's a cool album. So yeah.
Now, is the Impex a 45 or a 33?
It's a 33, and they only did 33 on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you don't like 45, you should get the Impex.
Yes, and I think it comes in stock every once in a while. I think.
Yeah. Not hard to get, I think.
Like they just put out that MoFi. I think it's still in stock in a few places. The live at the Black Hawk. Is that it?
Yeah.
I've got it right here.
I haven't received, but I ordered that.
Yeah,
I think that one last time was pressed. It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Well, it's on Impact. So I haven't listened to it.
Who's tenor on that? Is it Mobley?
I don't know.
Or George
Cole on the back, so I don't know.
No, I think. Oh, isn't it Sam Rivers?
Okay, so the lineup is Miles Davis, Hank Mobley, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, and they do a lot of really great songs. Like they do Walkin'. They start with Walkin'. It's a totally different version than on the Prestige Walkin' album, which is one of my favorites. They do So What, from Kind of Blue, and they do Oleo, the Sonny Rollins tune that they do on Relaxin'. So If I Were a Bell, which I think is also on Relaxin'. So they do like a lot of the old stuff. They do some Cole Porter. So it's a really cool set. And I think it's up tempo, like pretty much. A lot of the songs. So like the So What version is very different than the Kind of Blue version.
I think actually they released Kind of Blue in August. I think by next summer he will never play So What in the right tempo again. He will always play faster.
Yeah, I like it they do it on Four and More, right? I think it's the opening track on Four and More.
Let's talk about that because that's next.
So Four and More is next. Great. So Four and More recorded February 12, 1964 at the Philharmonic Hall in Lincoln Center in New York City. It was released 2 years later, January 17, 1966. And this one features Miles George Coleman on tenor, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Tony Williams on drums.
So no Wayne?
No Wayne on this.
Oh, Wayne was the last one to join.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have this one, Felipe?
Yeah, I mean, I have both parts of the concert.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Can you
Four and
speak? Can
More.
you speak to that? The differences between those two records.
I mean, yeah, Four and More is like really fast paced, up tempo. Different. Also, it's an original master recording, different from My Funny Valentine, which is an FSL
Oh,
type
right.
of strip. Yeah. I mean, just the songs are completely different in a sense. The way they're played, they're both stereo, not mono. I always thought this record was mono, but when I got it, it's a stereo recording.
Now, are they
I
doing
mean,
ballads? Are they doing more ballads on that one?
yes. All Blues, for example. I Thought About You. Let me see what else in here. Yeah, it's very more ballad. It's so mellow. My Funny Valentine, of course. Stella by Starlight.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a really mellow, slow, intimate record. And this is exploding. First time I heard that, I said, "Oh my gosh, what's happening here?" Tony Williams like steals the show. This is Tony Williams' record.
And it's so these were the same show. They're different
Yeah,
songs, and they basically put the upbeat songs on Four and More, and
yeah,
the ballads on My Funny Valentine. In
exactly.
order of release, that Four and More came out in January of '66.
Yeah,
My Funny Valentine came out in February, so they put it out one after the other.
yeah.
And in terms of release order for Mobile Fidelity, it was 2013 for Four and More and 2016 for My Funny Valentine.
Yeah.
I don't have Four More. I really want it, but I really like the My Funny Valentine record. I've listened to it 4 or 5 times since I got it.
I have the Columbia 360 Four and More, and it's one of my favorite Miles records. It's Tony Williams on it.
It's on fire. Oh my gosh.
But he's like, it's like a Tony. For me, it's like when I listen to it, I'm listening to.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Like his cymbal work, he's just unbelievable sounding on it. So we just went over Four and More and My Funny Valentine, the live records, and the next one is June of '67, which is Sorcerer. And this was recorded May and August of. So this was actually recorded in May of '67, and then track 7 was recorded in '62. Okay.
Yeah. There's a backtrack there. Yeah.
So this is the second quintet. So Wayne, Herbie, Ron Carter, Tony Williams, and then that one song that's from '62 has Wayne Shorter, Bob DeRoe on vocals, Gil Evans arranging, Frank Rehack on trombone, who also played with Gil Evans on some of those Miles records, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, Willie Bobo on bongos. We got Willie Bobo, who plays with.
It's not Herbie's record, right?
Well, it's just like, Willie Bobo plays on Inventions and Dimensions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So what do we think about this one?
I mean, of course, like most of the rest of them, it sounds amazing, right? But it's kind of a weird record. I mean, I like it, but it's kind of almost a confused record. Like it doesn't really flow well. There's something about that's kind of off.
So it looks like they're doing 4 Wayne Shorter compositions.
Yeah.
Tony Williams
also. Herbie has the title track.
Yeah, and Herbie has the title track.
The last song is stupid, and they should have left it off the record, in my opinion. The one with Bob singing it makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make a sense. Yeah.
Huh.
It's just weird. I mean, it's still a good record. Though. I still like it. It's just, I think it was like Miles trying to figure out where he was going to go or something, maybe.
Yeah. I am not sure he had to do with his wife here. That's in the cover also.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that vocal song. I'm very positive there was something related to her. That's why I end up getting the record or being recorded or something. But I got to check on that.
I mean, do you have this? Do you have the Sorcerer, Mike?
I have a 70s Columbia 360 of it.
What do you think about the music?
I don't visit it often. I've listened to it a few times. So I don't want to give an opinion because I would need to do some more critical listening of it. But it's second quintet and so that's something I need to do in the near future. All right. So moving on, we are now moving to this one is a great one, Miles Smiles, which was recorded in October 24th and 25th, 1966, February 16, and it was released February 16, 1967. And this is, I'm pretty sure it's second quintet all the way through. Yes. So Wayne, Herbie, Ron, and Tony. And they do 3 Wayne Shorter compositions, 1 Miles composition, an Eddie Harris song, and a Jimmy Heath song.
Yeah. It's a great record. Actually, it was my very first MoFi Miles that I bought. And back in those days, I won and I was able to get it.
Yeah.
At first I didn't like the sound very much, but then I think I got more into the record itself. And I mean, the first song, Orbits, kind of brings you up there in orbit. Then comes a cool ballad. I just like Ron Carter's bass solo on the third track.
Okay.
Which is I forgot the name here, Footprints. I just love Ron Carter's work there. I think that the whole record is just so. I think it works as a whole. It just goes up and down, but everything's so cohesive. I think they had probably their most like cohesive record from the quintet. I think.
I think it's great. Yeah, Chris.
I've never heard it, so I have no idea.
It I agree with Rico. The first track is, I think it's been covered a few by a few other musicians as well. It's it's you know, it's definitely reminds me of a Wayne Shorter composition. It's a like post bop style in his style. So
in a sense, it just sounds like, okay, the Sorcerer or something, they had to do it, but they kind of rework some stuff because they came so close together, right? Those 2 records. And I think Miles, they really knew what they're doing. They really, I don't know. It just sounds a better body of work put together.
Yeah. I will say I never really liked the cover of it.
Yeah, the cover's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of crappy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah.
They could have called like a Miles Off Smiles or something, but
don't judge a book by its cover. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Next one up is Nefertiti. Okay,
the
so
most like praised one
is an exceptional record. It was recorded in June and July of 67, released March of 68. This again is second quintet, so same group. And this one has 3 Wayne Shorter compositions, 2 Herbie Hancock, and 1 Tony Williams.
Yeah.
What do we think about this one?
I mean, it's phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
It's great sound. It's probably the best sounding of the whole batch.
I have it. It's really good. I think it just came back in stock, so a bunch of people are getting it right now.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say I think that the very last few of them are like almost, there's nothing wrong there. They're always like close to perfection.
Yeah.
Sound wise.
I have an OG of this that sounds pretty good. I mean, it's kind of noisy, so I want to get the MoFi for sure. But I love the record. I mean, the music's amazing.
Yeah.
Now we haven't done anything electric yet on this one, right? No.
Yeah.
No,
I think
no.
Again, this is like for me, like Tony Williams is great on this record.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Tony's record. Nefertiti, there's a really good rendition of Nefertiti on VSOP. There's a really good rendition there.
So who's in VSOP?
Everybody but Miles, Freddie Hubbard.
Yep.
Freddie Hubbard.
Yeah, and later came Winton when Freddie Hubbard he was not very reliable. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to pick this one up. I mean, I think this one's one of the. It just seems like they were. I mean, it was the 4th album by the Second Great Quintet, right? So
yeah,
they were full on just burning and killing it at this point with each other, you know.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have 6 more to go through. The next one is I think we kind of there might be there isn't actually. But the next one here is Miles in the Sky, and this one is recorded January and May of 1968, released July of 68, and this has classic quintet plus George Benson on electric guitar.
Yeah, electricity kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
right.
so electric guitar by George Benson on Paraphernalia. Ron Carter's electric bass on Stuff. Herbie Hancock's electric piano on Stuff, and
Yeah.
Miles is playing cornet on Stuff and country.
Yeah.
Norman Maslov has said that Miles got the title "Miles in the Sky" from Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and there's a Beatles connection there.
That seems like a stretch, Mazzy.
Yeah. Could have been the opposite, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they stole it. I don't know. But to me, this is the best sounding out of all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
This is amazing. It's 45.
Outstanding music as well. Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy, but it's probably out of the whole batch, probably the most accessible, especially compared to like Beaches Brew or something.
Yeah, you mean as far as like the electric stuff goes?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Even like, yeah.
it's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that's with the electric piano coming in here. It's just like, I guess electric guitar too, technically, but electric guitar's been in jazz forever.
Yeah.
But the electric piano is just like the electronic stuff just starts to barely creep in a little bit on this record.
Yeah.
It's gonna creep. It's gonna get a lot more soon, right? Like it's fixing to be full on everything he was doing.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I do not have any version of this record.
You should get anything, even like a CD. Get it.
My Miles collection I have a few which I'll mention when we get to them, but I really fall off with Miles when he goes electric, I will say.
Interesting. Well, there may be a product we can talk about later that might be for you then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But this one is great. Yeah. Next is Feels.
Yes. So the next one is Phil's de Kilimanjaro. This is recorded June and September of 68, released in February of 69, and then it says here that it was released in the UK in 1968.
Yeah.
Sorry if I misspoke. I meant to say February, 1969 in the US.
Yeah.
So
this record already has Chick Corea.
Yeah. So let's check out the lineup here. So we have Wayne Shorter, tenor sax, Herbie Hancock, electric piano, Chick Corea on piano, and an RMI electric piano. Ron Carter electric bass, Dave Holland double bass, and then Tony Williams drums.
I mean, Herbie was kind of transitioning as well.
Yeah.
He was getting quite successful. And actually, Herbie's story is funny. He was in Brazil for a honeymoon in the late 60s, and he got food poison. And he was being cheated by the doctor there. They wouldn't allow, you cannot travel just to get money out of him. Then he got so delayed that Miles called and said, dude, what's going on? Are you quitting? He was kind of into the mood of quitting, so he just quit.
Wow.
That's how he went. Yeah.
I mean, musically, I like this one a whole lot.
Yeah.
The tracks with Petites Machines, I guess little stuff is what that means. That song and then Mademoiselle Mabry, they're the ones with Chick Corea and Dave Holland, and they're both really awesome.
Yeah. To the Sweet, Faire l'embrun. To the Sweet means suddenly, Petit Machin, little stuff. Yeah, that's it, pretty much.
All right.
And then next comes the $400 record, right?
Okay. So next we have In a Silent Way. This is recorded on February 18, 1969, and released July 30th, 1969. This one features Wayne Shorter, John McLaughlin, electric guitar, Chick Corea, electric piano, Herbie Hancock, electric piano, Joe Zawinul on electric piano and organ, Dave Holland double bass, and Tony Williams drums.
Yeah. And those guys will go everywhere afterwards, right? Mondishi and Miles Quintet, Miles' new band for Beaches Brew, everywhere.
So what do you think of this one, Chris?
It's ridiculous. It's one of my favorite jazz records. So Mazzy says it's his favorite Miles record, I believe. I think Bitches Brew is my actual favorite. I said Kind of Blue is, but I think it's Bitches Brew probably. But man, this one's a John McLaughlin record in my opinion. Like he just
it's a guitar record, yes.
Killed it, man. He's so good on this. And it's just kind of like when did this one come out? Let's see.
So 69, 70, 69. Yeah.
I feel like this record just was like the precursor to all the shit all these other guys did in the 70s. Like, Weather Report with, Zawinul And I mean, Wayne Shorter.
Yeah, and the Mondishi Headhunters everywhere. Those guys played with everybody.
I mean, Return to Forever.
Quite report.
Yeah, like this is the birth of freaking the whole fusion era. Maybe. I mean, maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, I really like it. It's really good.
Yeah, he was definitely looking ahead, and he crafted really well the sessions. He knew what he wanted.
Yep.
He knew what he wanted.
So, do you have this mic at all?
I did get this one, and I had a 70s Columbia 360 that I think sounds great. But as Felipe mentioned, this one on the second,
I have that one. The MoFi sounds better.
Well, on the secondhand market, this one got to extraordinary prices. Mm-hmm. So when it came back, I was like, well, let me get this thing because, it seems like, one that everybody really loves. So I did pick it up. So I do have this one.
So it was up to like $400.
Well, you got that close, yes. I think even this one in Bitches Brew, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's kind of an interesting point too, right? Because I think we all thought that at least that one in Bitches Brew too, we're never coming back again.
No.
Right.
It said sold out, right? Like it said sold out, like they were never going to get repressed. And then all of a sudden it's like, here they are.
Yeah.
Which is great for us. It's just kind of weird.
Which is probably why those prices went up, because people just thought, this is
they're done. Yeah, they're done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I did pick up that. I picked up that in Milestones, and maybe a third one together. They did like a big release, so I got those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great one, and for me, who wasn't particularly interested in the Miles Electric period, I think this was a good first step for me to it. It's very different than what I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a great one.
Next.
Okay, so we have 3 more. The next one is a big, heavy hitter. We're talking Bitches Brew. We're talking 1970. Recorded August 69, released March 1970. Let's see who's on it here. I mean, there's basically every track has a different lineup. I won't go through everybody, but it's a similar group of guys that was on Bitches Brew, and then there's different iterations here. So what do we think?
It's the best.
Oh, this is so good, Mike. This is so good. It was one of my first Miles CDs I've ever bought. I think right after it kind of blew. It's kind of weird. You're expecting one thing, you get another. But I think the best definition. Have you guys watched the Miles movie, Miles Ahead?
Yeah.
When Santana is talking about Bitches Brew, he said, "Man, I just close my eyes and think about those lights going around buildings in a big city. You just close your eyes and especially if you had a drink or something, it just takes you somewhere else. And it's an immersion process. It's not easy to digest. I think it's very like thrown away bits and pieces here and there. Lots of space also.
Oh, for sure.
Which So I think that's it. It just takes me somewhere else. I really like it. Really like it.
Now, how does the MoFi sound?
Oh, I sold my 360.
I have the 360, so I skipped the MoFi. I didn't think I needed another copy, but yeah, it seems like Chris, are you have the MoFi?
Yes. Yeah, let's do it twice today.
And what do you think of the sound of it?
Oh, it sounds amazing. I love it. I mean, my Sony Legacy copy I sold sounded amazing too, honestly.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's great. I wanted to have it. I want to get all the Miles MoFis as they come out, because that brings up a point that I wanted to make. These records, right? A lot of them are expensive if you want to get OGs that are minty, like super expensive, probably. These are kind of like, to me, these are just like a Tone Poet or an AP release, right? Like if you buy these copies,
exactly.
So you take care of it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You never got to replace it. It's a lifetime copy, and to me, it's it's just that's one of the reasons about it.
I agree.
Yeah, as far as Bitches Brew goes, everything Felipe said is right on. I think Bitches Brew is a really good way for people who are like into metal to get into jazz.
Yeah,
it's different. Right? It was the first jazz record I ever listened to back in the 90s. And I had it on CD back then. I had it, and I had Headhunters, and that's the only jazz I listened to. When I was like in my 20s. if you like, Felipe was talking about having a drink. If you like imbibing, other substances, it's really cool to listen to as well.
Mhm.
Maybe an edible or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Back, just let it kind of fill your body, man. Like, a lot of people
Yeah,
though. You don't
it
have
kind of
to.
it kind of surrounds it. I mean, that's how I like this one better in that regard. Also, Chris, is that like embraces you, goes around. I mean, the the ones that I had, they sounded small.
Hmm.
You don't hear this horns and drums going all over the place. You don't hear it. Here you have it.
Man, how about the title track? Bitches Brew, where it's like
Oh my goodness.
starts off with like the bass, just do 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 do, and it's all. I mean, just and then Miles coming in with like those crazy like horn blasts just out of nowhere. You're like, what the
Yeah,
hell's going on, man?
yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah.
love it. I just love it.
Yeah, I do love Miles Horn on it.
No,
All
it
right.
is great.
All right, so we
What do
have.
you think about it, Mike? I mean, you have it. What do you think about the record?
I haven't spent enough time with it. I mean, I've listened to it multiple times, but I generally listen to it in bits and pieces, and it's a double LP, so it's a lot to get through, and I feel like I partition it out, which probably isn't the best experience with it, but that's just how I
Mhm.
listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I like it. I think Miles Horn on it sounds great. There's like moments in Bitches
Yeah.
Brew. I think he almost sounds like he's like standing off to the side and just like projecting to the rest of the room. It sounds incredible.
But yeah, but I think that's the whole Miles approach. For the sessions, he just brought all those guys in, new guys, and he didn't even give like directions. He just play it, play what you feel, and he was like on the side actually just following.
Oh right, yeah.
That brings up a really good point, though. Kind of, I mean, Bitches Brew was not. It was a studio recording, but it wasn't. They didn't record these tracks, so
No.
they recorded all these bits and pieces, and then it was Teo Macero, right? Felipe?
Yes.
Yeah.
He went into the studio and put all the tape and cut all the tapes up and made the album.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean,
Oh,
the
really?
jazz, like, purists of the time
Oh my
really
gosh.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shit. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like a well crafted disconnection.
Exactly, dude. It's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is a huge thing. It sold a lot of copies too when it came out. I mean, it's like, kind of blues up here. Well, Bitches Brews right after it as far as sales go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were freaking out, man. I would like to see what Stanley Crouch had to say about this record when it came out. We might have to talk about that Friday night on the live stream with Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be great.
There's a record by Lenny Tristano on Atlantic. I think it's from like 58. It's probably earlier than that. And he was experimenting with overdubbing and speeding up the tape, and the critics flipped out. They were like, they just
And it became so common afterwards, speeding up, slowing down the tape, getting
to
it
hear
fast.
in 1970 that the critics are still kind of upset with that is just interesting.
The chipmunks.
Jazz like creates like a dogma or something, or like like a rule-based system, and I feel like the old guard is a long time.
It's always the critics, though, right? Because the musicians are always pushing. We're always
right. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
like no rules, man. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, wasn't Miles trying to push for like big concerts, like wasn't like
actually when he
what?
was kind of low. He was making good records, but he was not selling much in the late '60s. So when Clive Davis joined the label, he said, "Miles, you got to do like these other guys are doing." He pushed more into like a more commercial side. He knew how to explore Miles commercially better. He put in the big festivals. Yeah, that was all Clive Davis.
Yeah, it was Clive, and then Miles also wanted like seeing the rock scene and what it was doing, right? Like,
yeah. So
stadiums and all that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great transition because the next album is Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson, which is one of my favorites. I think
So
it's a heavy metal record.
So this is again recorded in 1970 in February and April.
Yeah.
And then released in February 1971.
Yeah.
Okay. And this, who's featured on this? So looks like a couple of different lineups. Sonny Sharrock's on electric guitar, Chick Corea, Dave Holland, Jack DeJohnette, Benny Maupin,
Billy Cobham,
Herbie, bunch of people. There's a few people I'm not familiar with here, like Brock Peters, Michael Henderson, Steve Grossman.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
so what do you think of this one? And Felipe, can you talk about the style difference here from some of the
Oh
previous?
yeah, I think it's what I think the first jazz record, like full guitar, full blasting. It sounds like a metal record in a sense. It's very heavy, not like in distortion and stuff, but the way the guitar rips through, the presence of the electric instruments. But I think the guitar dominates this record. It's a guitar record for sure.
So it seems like Bitches Brew and Jack Johnson are like maybe entry points for a lot of rock
Yeah,
guys into jazz.
yeah, and also Jack Johnson. I mean, the whole concept of Jack Johnson, the fighter. I mean, the
Right.
racism
Yeah.
and everything. So I think express all of the anger that Miles had towards this.
I think that's fair.
It's a very angry, very fast. It's a very forward, very intense music. There's not
Yeah,
like a single like moment where they stop. It's always like, yeah,
yeah, I agree. They don't stop because I mean each song's like 25 minutes on each side,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
I'm not. I need to listen to it again. I've only listened to it like twice since I got it.
Yeah.
I also have the records for day, like the alternate tracks or whatever it was. You know,
Oh,
Yeah,
Race in the Ring.
yeah, where he's in the, yeah, that's called
Yeah,
Champions. I think.
Yeah.
I didn't get that one. No,
Yeah.
It's
it's
good.
still
Well,
easily available. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. And it probably is
yeah,
affordable too.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that it's a good way for rock guys to get into jazz. You know, with Jack Johnson.
Yeah.
Even
Oh yeah,
in the silent way too, though. I mean,
Yeah.
the guitar on that record is really good too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It feels like Jack Johnson is like a step forward from Peaches Brew in the way that's more structured.
Mhm.
I think that'll be the major point there.
All right, guys, we are at the last entry in the MoFi catalog.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
turning the corner. Yeah,
this is Miles on the Corner. This is recorded in June and July of 72, released later that year in October, and it was
Yeah.
released on MoFi in 2016.
hmm
So what do we think of this one?
It's great. It's like concept record, I would say. At that point, you can tell by the cover, the motifs, the clothing. It's very like a Black Power kind of thing.
Mhm.
In that they were really expressing themselves through the way they dress, those hair, dressings. I mean, it's very like passing a message. And Miles, it was also another. He was kind of laying the foundation for his '70s work, and he was really into Sly. He was into James Brown, and he was really into Jimi Hendrix. So James Brown actually recorded Blue and Green, as I mentioned earlier, and actually Miles re-recorded Blue and Green, trying to do what James Brown did. He became friends with Jimi Hendrix. Miles actually started teaching Jimi Hendrix music because Jimi Hendrix couldn't read music. They became close friends. Miles went to his funeral, everything. And Sly, a funny passage. His agent brought him to Sly, where they used to live there in California. And then on the way out, Miles said, "Man, everybody was so high, I could not talk to anybody. I only got some cocaine from them and stepped away."
You know, I feel like I need to give this another listen. I bought this. I have it on music on vinyl. From what I remember, it sounded good, but
Yeah.
I think I need to give this another chance because I think I listened to this early on when I first got into jazz, and I just think it was kind of over my head a little bit.
It's very like broken. It's not like linear, just like Jack Johnson or other ones. It's very like broken, just throwing stuff all over. I think he was trying to get a sound. Maybe he didn't craft it like song structures, but I think the message is there. I mean, a little bit of a soul, R&B, some rock. He was just throwing stuff out there. I think, in a sense, reminds me some of the Mondishi kind of thing with Herbie, where there's so many stuff like thrown out there, but they're not like so linear, cohesive that are accessible to many people. But I think it's a great concept record, and I totally understand what he was trying to get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes successful, sometimes not.
Yeah. Now, for those who have stuck around, we do have a special bonus section. But before we get to that, I just want to quickly kind of recap because I have all the titles in front of me. So the MoFi catalog, they have 18 titles, and the first one is Roundabout Midnight, and that is essentially a first quintet. It goes through the late 50s to the early 70s. You have some examples of Miles working through figuring out what his next quintet is going to be. Like you have Something My Prince Will Come with Hank Mobley. He then establishes his second quintet with Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Tony. And then, the MoFi rounds out with Bitches Brew, Jack Johnson on the corner, right? So they do have a huge breadth of the Columbia catalog and some really outstanding titles in Miles's catalog. So it is a great way to dive into it. Essentially, whenever they come up, I think we would all just recommend grabbing them if you don't have them and are interested. I don't think you can go wrong with these. Some sound better than the others, but overall, I think they all sound very good.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think it's a done deal. No discussion about the quality of those, sound, presentation, everything.
Yeah.
Don't buy the one steps.
No.
All right. Should we move on to the bonus round?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hold
Let's
on.
stretch it.
So as everyone can see, this is the Vinyl Me Please website. They have recently announced a Miles Davis LP box set. And I think it's titled The Electric Years.
Right.
So what do we think about this? Should we go over all the titles and what are we doing here?
Yeah, so the first note is it's the Electric Years, right? Let's look at the titles, I guess.
Okay, let's see if they break them out here.
Yeah, just some there's
Here we go.
So
it goes from In a Silent Way. We talked about In a Silent Way, Bitches Brew, a tribute to Jack Johnson, same record, right?
Different cover.
Yeah.
On the corner. So those are all on MoFi, and we talked about them, right? The things that aren't is the Live Evil record, which is live, obviously. Big Fun, which I've never heard, and then Get Up With It, which I haven't heard either.
Now, is Big Fun a Gil Evans record?
I don't think so.
No, yeah.
No.
I think it's
they're all 70s. They're all 70s, like more like soul rockish.
I actually was sampling this because Rev Rock and Rollin', my pastor.
Yeah, he posted.
Yeah, he was talking about it. I sampled it. I remember it being pretty funky.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And he was like in the early 50s. He was really high in those years, especially after On the Corner, until he came back in the early 80s. Yes, he was really in a bad place.
And what's I'm not too familiar with Get Up With It.
Oh, either. I'm interested though, but
yeah, I have it. I never listened to that much, but to me, the box sounds like great. If you don't have any of those, could be a nice roundup of his story there. But not for me. I think it's just too much. Doesn't justify.
Yeah, so let's look at the price. Let me go back up.
It's $349.
You can pre-order it now. If you're a member, you can get it for $350, and if you're a non-member, it's $400. So
no,
7 records for $350.
Yeah.
Does it come with a book? If I could buy the book separately, I'll buy it.
I'm sure it does. They usually and it'll have the podcast thing.
What's
too.
included? Electrified podcast, hosted by exclusive producer and Vinyl Me Please director of music, Anthony Windsorstorfer. This season of the Vinyl Me Please anthology podcast is devoted to exploring how radical these albums were and what they did to music after their release. So maybe this is exclusive.
Yeah.
It says these are AAA masterpieces.
No, they are.
But second generation copies, they're not the original tapes.
Okay, so have all been mastered AAA from one-to-one tape transfers of the master tapes by Ryan Smith at Sterling Sound and pressed at GZ.
And there will be
2,000 units
in the first edition, so there's going to be more. So don't bother. Right?
We have plug into the story. Read the story of the 7 albums in a very special 24-page listening notes and photo booklet written by Ben Ratcliffe.
Well, it's not written by Ashley Collin. That's a bonus.
Well, yeah, that's good. And then a commemorative box. So it comes in a box.
Yeah. I have some of their boxes. They're great. It's a really good work. I mean, it's just, I would say those have been released to exhaustion. Why don't we make the his Warner catalog, the very late ones? I think that would be super cool.
Because nobody wants to buy those, Felipe. That's why.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that crap. I mean, I don't want that crap. I mean, I'm gonna say it's crap. I'm saying nobody's gonna buy that shit.
But the Turu is a great one. It's a good record. I mean, Aura, that 87 record. Everybody should take a look into that. Aura, with the whole the Nordic musicians there, and HOP and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a good record. Aura is a good record.
So that's a good question. I'm sorry, Chris. You just reminded me of a question here. So, do you guys have a preferred era of Miles? Because there is the early Prestige. There's even pre-Prestige stuff, but there's Prestige, there's Columbia, there's Warner Brothers, and there's all different types of styles that he has. Do you have a preferred era?
I mean, this box is my preferred era, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, the first 4 records there, right?
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing here is the AAA, right? Now they're 1-to-1 tape copies, but those were recent copies.
Yeah.
Right? They were recorded in New York City, and those tapes were taken to Tennessee for him to cut them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's some intrigue there, I guess. I don't know. The MoFi sound so fucking good of those first 3 there.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think about what if they sound really fucking good.
Yeah, especially these 2.
Yeah.
So here's my approach. I'm going to wait for the first batch, hear the reviews, and then when the second batch comes, I'll decide.
Agree, because the second batch, if the second batch happens, which you would think it will, that'll probably get pressed at their plant in Denver, man, instead of GZ.
Yeah.
Like if that plant turns out to be really good, which we're all hoping it will be, like QRP or RTI, we're hoping that Gary, what's his name, Gary?
Oh yeah.
The guy that used to work for QRP and RTI that went to VMP. If he can make that plant as successful in putting out amazing records as QRP and RTI, then you got a stew going, man.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's have our program telling us what's going to happen there, right, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so that I think I'm gonna definitely set this one out. I mean, I have half the records already. I'm not gonna spend $400 on for 3 records. Like I already have the MoFis and shit. There's no reason for me to buy this.
Yeah, get the OGs. They're going to be AAA. Right.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, OG's gonna be AAA too.
Yeah.
All right. So we went over the MoFi stuff. We did a quick highlight on this new electric box being put out by Vinyl Me Please. We are curious to hear everybody's opinions about this. So what do you think of the MoFi? What do you think of this box? Are you going to get it? What are your favorite MoFis? Whatever comes to mind, just drop a comment. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell. We live stream every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We also jump on Rob, the Waxed VC's live stream during the week. So make sure to sub up to him. And I mean, any last thoughts here?
No, I think it was a good review. Great idea to revisit. And 2 points: how great Miles' music is, and don't get convinced that just because it's digital, it's not good.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that, Flip. I also really enjoyed recording this with you guys. This was good.
It was awesome. Yeah,
for sure.
Pretty good.
All right, great. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.